This evening, looking at the idea of kind of pulling from the Great Commission a little bit, and just a few of the things I've been reading or thinking about, even part of what we've discussed in the book of James in our morning lesson, but just kind of looking at an overall encompassing idea of teaching. But how many? When we stop and think about it, we look at the idea of, not the idea, the command in Matthew 28, verses 18 through 20, that says, Jesus came and spoke unto them, saying, All authority has been given to me in heaven and on earth. Go therefore, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe all things that I have commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even to the end of the age. So when we think about this, the assignment is to go and to teach, but how many? At what point have we done our job? At what point can we say, okay, I'm done? Or is there a spot for that? So, and then how do we do it? Who do we go and teach? We've got several examples of how that's done in the scriptures, and that's kind of the idea of this evening's lesson, is to look at some of that this evening. Is there a number? Is there a way? Is there something that we're supposed to do a specific way? Or is it just a statement like this where it tells us to go? So, Jesus and his apostles both give us methods and examples that we can look at. So the assignment is simple. It says go, and it says teach. So the word go, if we stop and think about it, is just a very simple two-letter word. But it's amazing how when we look at the Bible and we look at some of these small words, they make such a big difference or big impact into what we're supposed to do. So the word go means that we must do something. Kind of shocking, and we're not in the book of Revelation, we're not revealing anything new, but for some, the word go and doing might be an eye opener. Unfortunately, we can't always say, well, someone else will take care of it. Some things someone else will do, but yet this one here looks to be a commandment he spoke to them, not a specific person. And then we look at it as that go and teach to observe all things, which includes this last commandment of go and teach all things. So we are bound into this perpetual cycle to where once we have learned, we are then to go and teach it to someone else, and then we teach them to go as well. It is the beauty is it's a wheel. It is designed to keep going around and around, to keep on moving forward. He is not specific in how to go or where to go. We can go to just our neighbor, or we could go overseas. We have missionaries that we help support. We have them come from time to time and give us report of their activities. We have the ability to go ourselves to different places. Do we just take and focus within our own family? Do we focus with our neighbors in our neighborhood? Do we focus on someplace else? With the digital age today, it can be done anywhere. Going does not necessarily mean with my feet. It could be going electronically, through the phones, through email, through social media. How much do we go and we never leave our house? How many of us have a cell phone or have a telephone at the house or an email address? We have the ability to reach out to others. We record the sermons and our lessons here when the technology works right, and we post them online. This morning it decided to go into some random something. It recorded most of it. You can see me moving around, but you can't hear what I'm saying because the audio got into a the whole time. So that one didn't work. But we have quite a few that are there. Over the years, we've built up a collection, and I'm going to save the numbers for a little bit later as a wrap-up point. So we can go without ever leaving the city of Indianola. but are we going? Are we doing something? And what we're supposed to be doing is teaching. So we must pass on what we have learned. Do we take and accumulate all this knowledge and information, but what good is it at that point? That was something that I mentioned in Charles's celebration of life, is that his desire and passion for an education, something that his kids relayed to me. That was one of their key points, is that he valued education. But more than just learning how to use it, what to do about it. Christ came with all this knowledge, firsthand knowledge of God. We can look before Christ came and what has happened. God has revealed to us his mind through the prophets, through Christ himself, through the apostles, through the writing of the text, through the Bible itself. He has given us his revealed mind. It continues on. It gives us what we need to survive, what we need to be able to reach out to others. And the idea is to find out about God and then share it with others. Go and teach. We need to be able to share it one with another. A verse I could have easily put in right here. Have a ready answer for the hope that is within you. Be able to give an answer for why we believe what we believe. Some may call it the good, the bad, and the ugly. So by gaining knowledge and information, we find all of it is good, but when it hits our hearts, sometimes it feels reassuring, sometimes it doesn't. That verse just stepped on my toes. Don't like that one necessarily, but what do we do with it? Do we take it in? Do we learn from it and then go forward with it? Do we all of a sudden, like we mentioned this morning, we have to maybe change our location of activities, where we're not going and doing the sinful activities of the flesh that some of our friends might be still doing, and they've noticed that, hey, you're not hanging around us anymore. I'm so glad you asked. Do we have those opportunities for being able to teach? But it also has to be done through word and action. Are we just saying the words, or are we also doing them? As we saw this morning with one of Paul's statements, is that I buffet my body to make sure that I am doing what is right. He was doing it himself, not just saying do this, but also doing it himself. Do we talk the talk? More importantly, do we walk the walk? We've got to do both. We've got to be able to talk it and walk it. We've got to share with others what it is, and sometimes the only way we can share it is by walking it, by showing it in our lives. Because they won't listen to a Bible study. They won't open the book up, and it's like there's something against the mind to say, let's open the Bible, this book that shows us the beginning of time, that shows us how we can live now, how we can live happily now and later. And yet there is a mental block by so many to say, nope, can't do it. I will not sit down and open up a Bible and listen to that book. But for some reason, they'll look at someone and say, you are such a good person. Why? I'm a Christian. Do you want to see? Nope, I don't want to hear about the Bible. I'm a Christian. I live like this because of that. Maybe that's the only edge we can get in at a certain time, but we've got to be able to walk the walk, not just talk it. And so the commandment really is pretty open. It leaves it up to us as to how to accomplish this task given our talents. What talent do we have? Do you have the talent to get up into the pulpit and be able to provide a lesson to a group? Do you have the ability to lead in a Bible study class? Do we have the ability to talk to a neighbor? Maybe we just do one-on-ones. Maybe someone's able to do bigger groups. Some have different talents, and each one is different. Maybe there was a group that was for years that did the World Bible Schools, that did mail correspondence for Bible studies. That is one way of going. We are sending out material, sending out ability to look at the truth. Can we do something like that? In the new digital age, the World Bible School has gone digital. We could sign up and become a hub spot over here that if we have people to work it, we could actually get local people rerouted to us, and we can do that again. It may just not be here at the building with all the different envelopes and stamps and all the things, but there's ways of doing this. The question is, how do we go about it? So as we start looking at it, there are many ways that we can teach, and there's different methods of it. If we take a look at the way Jesus started his ministry, he started off with the masses, at least publicly in the first primary here. We see where he took, and in Matthew chapter 5, verse 1 and 2 says, "And seeing the multitudes, he went up on a mountain. And when he was seated, his disciples came to him, and he opened his mouth and taught them." He started much earlier than that. Really, if we want to look at his life, we can get into the idea that, and I think I've got this coming up in a little bit, but as we teach to groups, he started off even as 12 years old in the temple. Amazing people with his knowledge and information. Learning about Christ is a lifelong process. The first major sermon that we have recorded is here in Matthew chapter 5 and the Sermon on the Mount, where he talks to the multitudes. We also have accounts where Jesus taught while feeding the thousands that came to him. And they fed them because they wanted the word so badly, and Christ did not want to turn anyone away or stop it early. So we have at least two accounts where it's 4,000 or more that were fed at least twice. Two different times there was large groups that followed him, that it came dark and it was past time to eat. And he continued to teach the whole time. Sometimes we need to be open to stepping outside of our comfort zone a little bit. If you'd have told me when I first started attending here that I'd be up here doing this for about a year and a half now, I actually had someone who kept doing that. Betty Choate's mother, apparently she did this to every new male Christian, or even if you've been a male Christian for a while. You're going to be a good preacher one day. You're going to preach? Are you going to preach? She tried to encourage everyone by saying to the men, "You're going to be a preacher?" Not everyone's called to be a preacher. Not everyone has that talent. And at the time that she told me that, I was not looking at it. It was not something I thought that I had the ability for or had the desire for at the time. But going through learning, the building process, this is where I've ended up. This is where I'm at. So don't back off of what we're able to do. It may be uncomfortable at first, but I can only imagine if standing up in front of thousands and getting ready to talk. But he also, not just in the outdoors, he also did frequently at the temple. He frequently went to the temple, even at the young age. Here was that reference I was mentioning about Christ was amazed the educated with his knowledge. He was sitting and reasoning with those that were in the temple, that knew the law. They were entrusted to holding it in their hands and having it. In Luke 2, it records that time when he was there, and when his parents finally came back and found him, it's like, "Don't you know I'm to be about my Father's business?" And part of that business is teaching. Teaching others, sharing the information that we had. Even at the young age, Christ was not afraid to share information, reason one with another, and talk about it. Jesus and his disciples would go because that is where the people were at. They went into the temple. in many occasions found several references, at least, to where they went to the temple. When they arrived at the city, they went to the temple. In the temple, they taught, to the point that when they came to arrest Christ, his response to them coming as a mob was that, "Have I not been with you daily in the temple, teaching? And you come at me like a thief." He was with them daily. Even the apostles, and I didn't find the examples of this one, but as the apostles went spreading the word of the gospel after the resurrection of Christ, they went to the temple because that's where everyone was at. That is where those that would believe on Christ first were at. At least we thought they would. Some did, some did not. But it's still where they were at. We also see, as I illustrated this morning's lesson as well, Christ sent his disciples out to the various cities to seek and save the lost of Israel. When he told them to go to the cities. If we look in the account, it talked about going to a house. If the house would not receive you, shake the dust off your feet, go to the next. Go from cities. We can talk in the wide open areas. We can talk in the temple. We can talk in the city. We can talk in the house. All of these are possibilities. Now, a lot of these are all big and public. They're all big areas, a lot of people. Not everyone's comfortable with that. So as we start to see that Christ even sent his disciples to the households, even Christ himself would teach to the few. When we take a look at it, we start to see that we have the examples of teaching house to house. We have the example of Mary and Martha. Christ came in and ate with them, went to their house to eat, and he was sitting there teaching Mary. Martha was busy doing all the preparations. We don't have any idea how many others might have been at the house at this one. We just know about those three that were there. I imagine there would probably be more, but we're inside of a house. It is a much smaller group. And the idea here, the focus was, thank you for your hospitality, but Mary is listening to what I have to teach. And I'm not going to take that away from her. She's able to listen. She's able to gather all that information. We also have the time when he went into the city and Zacchaeus climbed up into a tree just to see Christ coming. I would imagine Zacchaeus' house might be a little bit bigger than Mary and Martha's. I'm just kind of guesstimating here because with him being rich, with being a tax collector and having much wealth, he probably entertained. He probably had this ability, so there might have been more people there. But yet it was still in the house. He said, "Today I will go with you and eat there." While he was there, they were talking because, we see we don't necessarily see what all happened there, but we do get to see what Zacchaeus stood up to do. That I will give back to the poor. I will give back to anyone whom I have done wrong. There was something there that was taught. We can also see in Mark chapter 2 there's a house in Capernaum. Is all that I could find about how to illustrate this one. Is when Christ returned to Capernaum, there was a house there that he was teaching in, and this is where the four friends brought the paraplegic on the stretcher. Couldn't get into the house. So even though we're at a little more personal setting of a house, there were so many people crowding around the outside, they couldn't get to the house. So they went on the roof, opened it up, and lowered their friend down to the table in front of Christ. How do we choose to go and spread the gospel? How do we even choose to do that? The command is there. It is in the Bible. It is within our needs of being able to accomplish, to be pleasing unto God. And so to do it is to do our duty to God. To not do it is a failure as a Christian to follow God's commands. And as we looked at this morning in the end of James, when he talks about those who fall away, that can be a very dangerous thing to do. How do we go? Well, before we can figure that out, the question we might need to ask is, where is your talent? What talents do each of us possess? Is it talking to groups or the individual? There are so many different options in doing that. There are so many different ways we can. Do we accept the opportunities provided to us to teach or to at least show Christ? What have we been asked to do in different situations? How many times do we even get asked to just lead a prayer someplace? At work, out in public, with friends. Are we asked to lead a prayer? Why are we asked to do that? As a Christian, we need to be able to take these opportunities to be able to utilize them. If nothing else, we can say something in the prayer that is biblically true, and maybe someone will hear it. Even Christ tried to get away for personal time, and he was followed and still gave attention to the people that were there. I remember one time at the Student Center a couple of years back, a student wanted to do an individual Bible study. And I'll tell you, I was tired that night. I was tired from that week. I was tired from everything, and I was ready to just go home and take a night off. My brain said, let's schedule it for next week or later on. I'm glad I didn't listen to my brain. We actually sat down, I think, the next night after school. I did it at the earliest convenient time when we were available instead of pushing it off. Do we take advantage of the opportunities that are given us? Sometimes if we push it off too far, they disappear. Do we still have them? Do we do it? And then more importantly, he says, go and teach. Doesn't say keep count. Doesn't say to try and keep a tally. Something that I said that I had some numbers and some ideas here. Looking online, just the brief ability we have to go on our Facebook page, there's 202 people on the Facebook page. That's 202 accounts that are able to see what we have. On YouTube, we have 15 subscribers, people that have actually have a YouTube account and said subscribe. So far, we have, as of I think last night, we have 331 videos, and out of those, there are 929 likes on those videos. And a lot of those likes came from Ladies' Day 2 years ago. Y'all's Ladies' Day just blew the views and the, I'm sorry, not like 929, that's not likes, that's views. How many times someone has viewed one of those videos. There were a lot of views to the Ladies' Day 2 years ago. There are a lot of views periodically depending on what the subject is and how people search it. But is this what's going to be taking our, is this our ticket to heaven? I was able to get more likes than someone else. I was able to put something on. I was able to talk to so many people. When we think about evangelism, we think about reaching out to those around us. Do we think about the numbers? Or do we look at the souls that we're able to reach? And that's the key, is in a lot of mission works, people want to look at numbers. But the real question is, are we teaching? Whether it's an evangelistic work like the Student Center or World Evangelism or packing ourselves up and going across overseas or to our neighbors, we can do it ourselves as well. Are we doing what we're supposed to do? That is the question. Are we teaching? In 2 Timothy 4 and verse 7. Do we keep on going until the end? Not trying to keep count, not trying to impress anybody, but just doing the job that we're here to do. Paul says, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Part of the faith is going and teaching. How we go, how we teach is up to us. Are we at least doing it? Are we attempting to? Not everyone will listen, but are we at least attempting it? Are we at least teaching it in our lives the way that we live? That's the question. It's not how many, it's are we? If there's any need of the invitation, we offer that tonight. We offer it at any time, but also tonight. If anyone has that need, you're welcome to come while together we stand and sing.